Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. I'm not holding it in anymore. I'm gonna shout it out loud. I understand now what I'm here for and what this life is about. It's about love, it's about laughter, it's about comfort and smiles. It's about love, it's about kindness, it's about hearts open wide. It's about love, it's about passion, it's about taking a chance. It's about love, it's about service, it's about lending a hand, lending a hand. So swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine.
Good morning. Today and every day, we have swung wide the doors to the presence of God, knowing that Spirit is in this place and in all places and all people. Just as the sun awakens us to a new day, the Spirit of God within awakens us to divine glory. And this glory within and around us is everywhere we look and in every situation we encounter. With our hearts centered in Spirit, we can quiet our thoughts and meditate on the wonder of all of God's creation and our oneness with it. So I invite you now to take a deep breath, become comfortable, and gently release any cares of the day. Your sole purpose at this moment is to experience the divine. And you begin to do so now as you relax in this sacred time and space at Unity Spiritual Center. Seeing through eyes of oneness, acknowledging our oneness, we at Unity Spiritual Center celebrate and honor people of every culture, of every creed, of every religion, of every race, of every age, and every lifestyle, knowing that there are many paths to God, many faces of God, many names for God, but only one God. And that God is expressing through all people in unique, special, and individual ways. As you look at the flame of this candle that we light every Sunday, remember that you yourself carry a divine flame within, that you yourself are an individualized expression of God. We honor the one presence and power of God with Unity's foundation statement, which you'll find on the screen behind me. And I invite you to join me in saying it aloud together. There is only one presence and one power, active as the universe and as my life, God the good, omnipotent. We give thanks for our spiritual community and for the beauty of our spiritual center. We give thanks that Unity Spiritual Center is a welcoming, warm, and inclusive community dedicated to studying and putting into practice empowering principles and tools for happiness, health, prosperity, and successful living. We give thanks that with our spiritual teachings, we can create extraordinary lives and a peaceful planet through our relationship with the loving God presence within each one of us and through our relationships with one another. Our vision and the opportunity for each one of us here is that you discover the power within you to create the life of your dreams, that you have peace of mind and deep happiness, that you enjoy joyous and loving relationships with yourself, with spirit, and with others, that you spend your days doing what you love and feel called to do, and most of all, that you know that you make a difference, that your life matters, and that the world is a better place because you're here. If you're visiting us for the first time, and I know a few of you are, we do have 2 gifts that we hand out to those who are with us for the first time. If you didn't receive them, please hold your hand and Ethel will bring them to you. We hand out shell lays that have a tag on it that says, just as God has a design for every shell in the sea, God also has a design for your life. We also hand out packets of information about Unity in general and Unity Spiritual Center in particular. And you are always invited to contact me if you have any questions about Unity or Unity Spiritual Center. We know that being around a table can give us a sense of community, and that's why you'll see a few of them in our sanctuary, because we know that being around a table with others can just give us a sense of warmth and hospitality. You'll also see on the tables communal journals, and these are journals for you to feel free to leave a quotation in, a special reflection or thought, one of your favorite passages from Scripture, or anything you'd like to help us to get to know you better. And of course, we do also set up food tables in the next room, so please do plan on joining us for a wonderful hospitality spread following the service, so we can get to know you better over food as well. I'm also going to take this time to introduce our guest speaker today. To achieve phenomenal success as a multimedia and e-commerce pioneer, our guest today, Paul O'Brien, followed the guidance of what he calls intuitive intelligence. He invented a new category of software called interactive divination, starting with an I Ching program for the Macintosh in 1989. From such an unlikely start, he grew his tiny startup until it became the world's largest astrology and divination website 13 years later. Since selling the business for millions in 2007, Paul founded the nonprofit Divination Foundation and has authored 3 books, including his most recent, Great Decisions, Perfect Timing, Cultivating Intuitive Intelligence, which contains his story and profound lessons for those of us who want to manifest our dreams in our lifetime. In addition, Paulo's Pathways radio program on KBOO-FM in Oregon has explored the leading edge of personal and cultural evolution for 30 years through his interviews of other visionaries. On his own, as we'll find out, Paul is a courageously authentic speaker who guides people into manifesting new dimensions of their creative power to help change this world from the inside out. So please join with me in welcoming Paul O'Brien to USC. And at this time, as we move into the meditative portion of our service and prepare to raise our voices together in song, I'll ask that you turn off or mute all cell phones and electronic devices if you haven't already. Thank you, and let us sing together. I'll hand it over to Michael.
All right. What we have here, I almost said a line from a movie. What we have here is failure to communicate. I didn't say that line. When you're thinking about things and saying, I don't know how that works or what there is about it or whatever, you need to trust yourself and say, I can learn that. I can figure that out. I could take a moment. I could take a breath. So this tune is a little chant. You don't have to sing the whole thing. You can sing the answer line, which is 3 words. I will know. It's pretty simple from that level. But I know that when you're sitting in front of a computer and you go, I don't know this program. And then you have to say to yourself, it's just a program. Somebody wrote it. I got a brain. They got a brain. I can figure this out. And when you're in an emotional situation, same thing. You are not the first person to go through it. You can figure this out. But first you have to get yourself calm. And calm is the hardest thing to get when your brain is spinning 1,000,000 miles a minute. So here's a song I wrote for that, which helps me. When there's a question that must be answered, I will know, I will know. When I am lost, unsure where to go, I will know, I will know. There are no limits to my understanding. I will know, I will know. Infinite wisdom to make my decision. I will know, I will know. Has everybody figured it out? Yes. You can close your eyes. You don't have to look at the lyrics if you don't want to, and just think about the I will know. Or you can sing along with me. I am receptive, I am reassured. I will know, I will know. I trust in the guidance that God provides me. I will know, I will know. This is the prayer that I will remember. I will know, I will know. I can believe in a greater vision. I will know, I will know. There's a question that must be answered. I will know, I will know. When I am lost, unsure where to go, I will know, I will know. That's something to tell yourself anytime you're not sure, but say, stay calm, take a moment, take a breath. You can figure it out.
Now, as we continue to get comfortable in our seats, relaxing even more deeply into this time of worship, prayer, and meditation, let us open our hearts to receive the message of today's daily word. Is there anyone in the sanctuary who would like to read the daily word? The daily word will be read by Brian Lance, by Cheryl Hodgins. By Brian Lance. By Cheryl Hodgins.
Do it together. Do it together. This will be entertaining.
Today's daily word, faith. The seed of faith within me expresses through every choice I make.
When I consider the totality of life in its many expressions, I may feel overwhelmed. Jesus provided a teaching that encourages us to keep things in perspective. Faith the size of a mustard seed. That tiny seed of faith within me consists of two words: God is. There is a power of infinite love and a spiritual dimension that embraces and transcends our limited human understanding. I plant that seed of faith, and I nurture it daily with affirmations and careful, loving choices. Minute by minute, day by day, choice by choice, the infinite life and love of God expresses in every part of my life.
And from Matthew 17:20, for truly I tell you, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you.
Thank you. Kind of like that. A very balanced, holistic reading of the daily word. Maybe we'll do that again. Unity Spiritual Center is a center of prayer and healing. We have a prayer box placed in the back of the sanctuary along with prayer request forms. And let's just take a moment right now to hold the prayer requests that are in that box in our hearts. And just know that perfect divine order is taking place for everyone represented in that prayer chest. And that each person in that prayer chest who's represented in that prayer chest is enfolded in divine love. The prayer requests that are placed in this box are prayed on by me and our USC prayer team for 30 days. And then we forward them to Silent Unity at Unity's World Headquarters, where they're prayed on for an additional 30 days. As I mentioned, we do have prayer request forms. They're on green paper placed in the back, and you're always invited to fill one out and place one in the prayer chest. But we also have a time in our service where we can make our prayers audible. And this is the time to offer your prayer needs to your spiritual family here so that we can support you and stand with you. So after we sing the introduction to this song, you are invited to speak your prayer aloud, and we will collectively answer each prayer request by singing "Your Prayer is My Prayer Too."
We are connected by the heart. Where do you end? Where do I start? Whatever you feel, I feel too. You're a part of me, I'm a part of you. Your prayer is my prayer too. 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 Prayer is my prayer too. Your 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 prayer is my prayer too.
We give thanks for this opportunity to bless and to be blessed in spirit. We give thanks for the feelings of connection, peace, and warmth that fill our hearts and minds right now. We give thanks for the privilege of praying for others in our community and in our nation and around the globe. And we affirm that always and in all ways, divine love and divine order is everywhere present. At Unity Spiritual Center, your prayer is our prayer too. Amen.
All right, I was thinking about songs about thinking about songs about thinking about songs about thinking. That just keep on going. And this is a tune called the Wisdom Song. And I was thinking about the three stages of life that we kind of go through when you're young and you're brash and you're thinking a million miles a minute. And what am I going to do? I got all these things. I can do all these things. And then you get to the middle age going, I don't know why I did that part. That was 10 years that I didn't need. And then you get a little bit older than that and you go, you know what? None of that really made any difference. It's just about your friends and how much you love and everything else and doing what you love and being involved in things that make sense to you. So I've tried to put it into 3 paragraphs. And we're going to use a country beat, and I've got my country, Columbus, Ohio kind of guy. I'm from Columbus. actually, I'm going to tell this story really quickly. But I took Valerie to Columbus with me for my high school reunion only because I said, we're going to experience a Midwest 4th of July. You know, she's been on the West Coast forever, and so I don't think she's really seen what I've seen. So we're there, we're watching the fireworks. She goes, I can actually see them. And people that live here know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's what it's supposed to look like, not this kind of blur. So, okay, with that in mind, we'll talk about some wisdom, different parts of life that goes with it. There's a couple of things that are good about being young. Everyone you meet is a brand new friend, and some will stick with you to the very end. Your system can handle exotic food and petulant waiters that are a bit rude. You can cram all night to learn a new app and be just as good as new with a 10-minute nap. There's quite a bit of RAM left in your mind and still a bit of time to get it refined, and that's what's good about being young. The growth of wisdom has begun. Oil, that is Texas tea. Oh, there's a couple of things that are good about middle age. No one expects you to be all that, but you still bring it on behind the bat. You've learned a few lessons and you learned them well. You got a few tricks in which you excel. Your insight has been very good to you. You dispense advice, but you don't tell them what to do. You can see the beginning and you see the end, and that's what sorry, that's the part about middle age that you sometimes get a little confused. So you can see the beginning, you see the end. Oh, wait a minute, I have to say that line one more time. You can see the beginning, you can see the end. You've got an opinion, but you're willing to bend. And that's what's good about middle age. There's still a few acts left on the stage. All right, we'll have to correct that and put that in there. Here we go. Oh, we have a bridge. For you songwriters, that's the part in the middle that doesn't have anything to do with anything else except it ties in remotely. It goes like this. Wisdom is what you will attain when you've loved and lost and felt the pain, when you've cried for joy and lived each day, laughing and learning at working and play. Huh. All right, here's a third part. I kind of like it, actually. There's a couple of things that are good about growing old. You've been a few places, you've read a few books. You're not too concerned about your looks. There's a whole lot of knowledge stored in your brain, although trying to retrieve it is often a strain. You got a piggy bank full of common sense. You state your opinion and don't straddle the fence. And although this list is getting long, you mostly get it right and you rarely get it wrong. And that's what's good about being old. It's all about the wisdom from what I'm told. Let's all whistle because I like that part. Here we go. Here, whistling.
Wow, that was great. I haven't done a whistle along in I don't know when. So today we're going to talk about the themes of New Thought Christianity, the themes that Reverend Maggie brought up today about manifesting happiness, success, whatever your heart's desire. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. even though the title of the talk is The Secret of Perfect Timing, which actually is a part of it all. Now, how many people here have heard of the law of attraction or seen the DVD The Secret? I would have thought so. Well, I'm here to tell you that attraction and the law of attraction is very important, but it doesn't get the job done all by itself. In fact, it leaves out the most important steps of the manifestation process, and that is the execution of good decisions. Just wanting something really, really badly and thinking about it obsessively is not going to work all by itself. I don't know if anybody remembers that scene in The Secret where this girl is lusting after a pearl necklace on the other side of the plate glass window, and she's, meditating and smiling and attracting it, and sure enough, it pops through the window and appears around her neck in the next scene. Well, that's not real. And manifestation is going to involve strategic decision making and good timing. Now, what is it about timing? I mean, we say timing is everything. We've all heard it said, and everyone knows you have to have good timing in order to be successful. You've got to buy low, you've got to sell high, both of which are really hard to do. You've got to know how to make the right moves at the right time. Well, today I'm going to show you how perfect timing works and explain how we can leverage this sublime skill as part of the manifestation process. And I wrote a book about it. And our talk today is extracted from this book that is out in the hall out there called Great Decisions, Perfect Timing, Cultivating Intuitive Intelligence. And there's a lot more to the book than I can cover today, but I'm going to just delve into some parts of it. Now, what do we mean by perfect timing? And I think in order to understand or have a sense of what perfect timing means, we have to understand a few things. We have to understand the change management skill of decision making. We have to understand intuition, and even more importantly, perhaps, we have to understand ourselves. We have to have a certain amount of self-knowledge. And we heard about the stages of life just now in that song. It was beautiful. And in the book, I talk about 3 stages of life. And of course, you can divide life into all kinds of passages. And the 3 stages that I call out are the student stage, which is the stage 1 of life. And that's where you discover what you're good at, what you love to do. And how do you discover that? You discover that by trying things, through trial and error. And you discover what fascinates you if you allow yourself to do that. So like in my case, in stage 1 of life, I was fascinated primarily by 2 things. I was introduced to this change management system called the I Ching when I was 19. I was an undergrad at Cal Berkeley. And then a few years later, I was introduced to software. Now this was in the mid-70s. This is before Apple Computer even existed. Now the way I discovered the I Ching, and it's just one of these fateful stories, it just goes to show how we're drawn and called in all of these various ways. I was flirting with this girl on the campus of UC Berkeley, and she wanted to show me this ancient book where you can ask it a question, and it's going to give you a reflection that helps you make a decision, or perhaps predicts the future. And I thought, oh, wow, okay, I'll go along with this. She's a cute girl. I'm interested in her. And I was kind of being a smart aleck about it, though. I was kind of making fun of the whole thing. So I came up with some question that wasn't really that meaningful for me, but I just wanted to do this just to spend time with her. And so I cast the coins, and lo and behold, my very first I Ching reading completely ignored my trivial question and came back with hexagram number 4, which is entitled Youthful Folly. The student lacks respect for the teacher. I thought, oh, wait a minute, let me try that again. So this time, rather than making fun of it, I was trying it to test it. And it, once again, it completely ignored my question, which really wasn't meaningful to me to begin with, and it came back with text that said, questioning the sincerity of the seeker. And I thought, oh, geez. First I make fun of it, it makes fun of me. Then I test it, and now it's testing me. And I was hooked. I realized it's an energetic mirror, and I've used it my entire adult life to stimulate my intuition around problems that logic can't handle. And there's a chapter in the book about how to do that. And then when I was 23, I had a friend who was working in a computer center at this nonprofit, and the computer would take up half this room. They called it a mini computer. It had less power than my iPhone has now. And we'd go there in the middle of the night, and he was the lead programmer, and he downloaded this software that made it turned it into a game machine. This humongous computer with mag tapes this big around, had one tiny little terminal the size of an oscilloscope, and he hooked up joysticks to that and downloaded this software from MIT using this thing called ARPANET, which was the beginning of the internet in the early 70s. And we'd go there at night, and we'd smoke pot, and we'd play this. We'd turn this gigantic research computer into a game machine. And I was mesmerized, not by the game so much, but by the phenomenon behind it, by the phenomenon of software. Somebody wrote this code and delivered an immersive, interactive experience, and I thought, wow, that's a form of wizardry that fascinated me. So that was my second major fascination, and that propelled me to become, to join the software industry. And basically, I'd already dropped out of college, and I didn't really have any credentials, and I got a job there as a secretary, typing up their documentation. It's the only job I could get. I was determined. I got paid $660 a month, and that was my introduction to the software industry. 15 years later, I was the VP of marketing for a high-tech company, and I ended up inventing I Ching software, as Reverend Maggie said earlier, which was probably, that was the beginning of stage 2 for me. I created, stage 2 is the builder-provider stage, and so I built on these fascinations and these skills I had discovered at stage 1 in order to provide for myself and for my son and for other people. And I became a professional. I carved out a career. But then I had this, 15 years later, I had this bright inspiration. I was doing the I Ching at work, and I decided, hey, I wish I could do this on my Macintosh. And so I took my entire life savings at that time, which was about $50,000, and because I'd been doing very well. And I just plunked it all into creating a prototype of the world's first I Ching software, and which necessitated that I write my own version of the I Ching because I didn't have the rights to any of them, and I wanted to improve it anyway. I didn't want it to be sexist. I didn't want it to be militaristic or patriarchal. So I did all of that. I spent all of that money to create a prototype, and I thought, wow, this is really cool. I mean, if anybody should be able to sell this, it should be me because I'm a marketing guy, but I was so foolish. It was like the dumbest business idea ever. And all of my peers thought I was nuts. There was no market for I Ching software in 1989, and people who bought software didn't even know what the I Ching was, and people who knew what the I Ching was didn't like computers. We didn't have email, so it was really a dumb business idea. But it was but I went for it, and it's kind of central to the story that's told in my book, which is at that point, I left money. I had a secure career, making a lot of money. I left money for meaning. And the reason is because I was fascinated. I was in love. I was in love with, I had a sense of mission. I had a sense of calling. And so I always knew that I could go back to the software industry, but I had no family money. I had no hope of getting investors for such a crazy business idea. So I did it anyway. And as Maggie said, for the next 13 years, it took me 13 years to make it profitable, and that was a struggle. And a lot of times people say, oh my God, you sold the company in 2007, that was perfect timing. And I go, well, yeah, I suppose it was, but it didn't feel so perfect for the 13 years I starved leading up to that. But the ability to survive as a business and to continue following my dream required a lot of decision making. And the I Ching helped me with that. Intuition helped me with that. And that was like the ultimate highest leverage skill for all of us, really. I mean, everybody is the CEO of their own life. Everybody is the sovereign of their own kingdom. And so that's my book promotes that idea, is that we can think of ourselves that way, whether we're working for somebody else or not. And what is the highest leverage human activity? Decision making. It's what we pay CEOs a fortune to do. It's what politicians are afforded a lot of power to do for the collective good. But in our own personal life, nothing conditions your potential for success and happiness more than the quality of the decisions you make. And you'd think that being the only species that can visualize different possible outcomes to different choices we might make, we would be brilliant at this by now. But lo and behold, we suck. We are really bad at this. We're either too emotional and impulsive, or we're over-analytical and we procrastinate, waiting for more information. So I've been focused on this decision-making function for a long time. And I had a board of advisors, and their only function was to help me make decisions. Because I want to do everything. You know, I'm a creative type, and I want to start doing this, and I want to start doing that, and I like starting things. And they would help me stay focused and slap me around. They were not yes men. These were no men. And they corrected me so many times. It was one of the most brilliant things I did was to get these people on my board. I told them, I said, I knew them both very well. I said, I'll give you 1% of the stock in my company if you just have lunch with me once a week. And we did that for like 10 years. And when I ended up and I said, and I'll buy lunch. And so I met these two guys every week for 10 years, and all we did was focus on my decisions, my strategic decisions. And I got to tell you, when I sold the company and I wrote each of those guys a check for $200,000, that was one of the greatest feelings of my life. And they helped me so much because they helped me make decisions. And so I'm kind of obsessed with this whole function of decision making. It's what my nonprofit does, is it helps people and organizations make better decisions. And that's what the book is all about. And I call it the visionary decision making process. Now that involves intuition. It's led by intuition. There was no logic on earth that would have told me making I Ching software would ever turn into anything. And quite frankly, the I Ching software was the least remunerative thing I have ever done. We have an I Ching app now, the Visionary I Ching, that's doing okay through the nonprofit, but it ended up becoming the world's largest astrology site because we added tarot cards and we added astrology, and then all of these synchronistic miracles happened to pave the way. And why? I think it's because I was doing the thing I was supposed to be doing. And when you're doing the thing you're supposed to be doing, your calling, stuff just starts to happen, and you start to live what I call the synchronistic lifestyle. And that's chapter 12. That's the last chapter in the book. But it's more difficult than ever to access your intuition these days. This really depends on learning how to cultivate intuitive intelligence. And why is it so difficult? It's because we are bombarded by all of these, all this noise, all this information. Like if you think of intuition, it's like, if you think of the palm of your hand as like your mind. And the 5 fingers are like gigantic antennae that are calling in signals. There's visual, there's auditory, there's kinesthetic. These are the 5 senses. And then imagine there's a dinky little 6th finger, really small one. It's a small antenna. That's the intuition. It's been called the 6th sense for 1,000 years. That antenna is calibrated to a very fine signal. It's sort of like a ham radio. You know, you're trying to get Fiji, and there's all this noise coming from Los Angeles. You know, it's hard to dial it in. It's the same kind of thing. There's a lot of noise on the line. And so there's the problem of distractions. But then there's blockages that are internal in the form of strong feelings. Like I said earlier, you know, we're very emotional about our decision making. I mean, this last election is proof of how people vote emotionally, or how they can be manipulated to vote emotionally. And I have this kind of rule of thumb. It's in the book. I call it, I modestly call it O'Brien's Law. And it goes like this. It says, the stronger the emotion, the less trustworthy it is. as a criteria for decision making. This is so counterintuitive to the way we usually think. We think, oh my God, if I feel that strongly about it, it must be the right thing to do. No, intuition can take the form of a feeling, but it's a delicate, it's a quiet, it's a more subtle type of feeling. You know, gut feeling, or there's a lot of forms that intuition can appear. I go through that in the book. But these strong feelings, they're usually ego-based, having to do with fear or greed or anger or jealousy or something like that. That is when you're going to make a really bad decision. So you got to, as the song says, calm down and know that you're going to get the answer. So what does intuition perceive? If your intuition is good, if your intuition is sharp, if you have access to it, and that's not to be assumed. Because like I was saying, you know, usually when you need intuition the most is when you're having those strong feelings. And that's like the hardest time to access it in any clear way. So, but let's say that we can meditate or just calm down or sleep on it or just give ourselves the space so that we can actually pick up some signals with that antenna. What are we picking up? Well, there's this word called synchronicities. Synchronicity, Carl Jung used it to define how the I Ching works. He was inspired by the I Ching. That's how he came up with the word synchronicity. And he also came up with the term archetypes. So you have these 64 archetypes. In tarot cards, you have 78 archetypes. And synchronicity means there are no accidents. It's like it's a meaningful coincidence. These are the signals. You know, a lot of times things happen and you go, geez, I don't know why that happened. That was just lucky, I guess. Or, you know, it was just a coincidence, we say. Well, maybe it was more than just a coincidence. Maybe it was a signal. Maybe it was what they called in the Bible the signs and omens. You know, I think we're being exposed to signs and omens all the time. I think synchronicity is happening all the time. That's the definition of perfect timing. Everything is unfolding perfectly according to some grand plan. Just because we don't know what the plan is doesn't mean it isn't working out. Just because it's not working out the way we would do it. You know, what is that old expression? If you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. So if we can learn how to tune into synchronicities that are happening and notice them more often, then we can consider different options that transcend logic. Now, the I Ching can help us do that. It's one way to do it because it's got a set of archetypes that you operate on you use the synchronicity principle to create a coincidence. So like when you're casting the coins, and the way the coins land is a coincidence. It's just the way they're landing right now. Now, what's the coincidence? Well, I'm thinking about something. I'm meditating on something. I'm casting the coins. Everything is related in time. That's what the synchronicity principle says. We know that everything's related in space. You know, the butterfly effect or what have you. But we ignore time in this, we ignore timing pretty much. I mean, we say timing is everything, but we don't really take it into account in Western science. Western science, we're trying to figure out what are things made of, and we take them apart and then maybe put them back together in a different way, and we've invented a lot of really great stuff, medicine and different inventions and stuff, technology, but we don't even consider time. We say if we do this controlled experiment on Tuesday morning, and we do this same controlled experiment on Sunday in the middle of the night, it's going to come out exactly the same. It doesn't matter what time you do it. Okay, that's fine, I guess, if you're taking stuff apart and you're just breaking things down. But it doesn't really work too well when it comes to relationships or negotiations or rituals. The social aspect of life really depends more on timing, and we're just babes in the woods when it comes to that. So that's why I'm fascinated by using things like the I Ching as a form of applied synchronicity. I'm going to create this coincidence. It's going to help me read between the lines. That's what intuition does. It helps you read between the lines. It helps you connect the dots in a larger pattern than your ego normally can see. We tend to think in terms of black and white. You know, it's either fight or flight. It's either yes or no. Well, I had a counselor once who used to repeat to me all the time, he'd go, Paul, there's always more than two solutions to any problem. I thought, oh, that's a very good reminder. I think maybe I'm going to write a book called The Third Solution. So this I Ching thing got a hold of me, and I wanted to put technology in service of the spiritual technology of ancient times. And I thought multimedia could add something to that. So it was a beautiful thing, the intersection between two fascinations of my personal life. Now I bring this up because you've got some fascinations too. And maybe you had them, maybe you discovered them when you were in your 20s and you thought, oh no, I've got to make a living or whatever. You might want to revisit stage one and see whether there's any meaning for that with you now. Now, I mentioned archetypes. Now, you don't have to use the I Ching to access archetypes. Archetypes are all over the place, and they're in every system of mythology and spirituality, and we can channel them. There's a chapter in the book on how to channel archetypes. So, like, for instance, the first two hexagrams of the I Ching are creative power and the receptive, and they're equally powerful. Another archetype I mentioned today is the sovereign, the king or the queen. There's the warrior. The warrior's job is to defend the boundaries. It's not a gender thing. You know, probably the most formidable warrior is the mama grizzly. There's the lover, and there's the magician, the inventor. These are 4 foundational archetypes, but there's a whole lot more archetypes. And I like to invoke them. I like to invoke them in my prayers in the morning, in the evening, during the day. Like, for instance, when I ran my company, I was channeling the sovereign archetype. I felt like a king. I said, this is not a democracy. I have no investors. I don't have to answer to anybody. I was the entire board of directors, but I had the board of advisors. And so I used to get up every morning and I'd say, what's the king's job? The king's job, or the queen's job, is to take care of his people. That's his number 1 job. The number 2 is maintain order in the kingdom. And number 3 is make sure the royal treasury doesn't run dry. Now, some kings had the wherewithal to tax the people. I didn't have that. I had to sell things to customers. But anyway, I felt like a king, and I'd say every morning, I'd say, may the powers of heaven help me today to take good care of my people. And I thought of my people as my customers and my employees, as well as my family. That was my archetype-based mantra every morning for years. And I think we should, if you're willing, and you're willing to close your eyes right now, let's do one that involves creative power. And I'll just speak it. And so uncross your legs and, be receptive. And I'm going to speak this, and I want you to sort of repeat it in your mind quietly after me. May creative power guide me toward happiness and success, toward my greatest good and the greatest good for all. And now just feel that. That feeling it is the 6th step in my manifestation process, which I call emotional magnetization. It's part of the attraction. Okay. Now, let's talk about timing for a second, because great timing is a subtle art that's difficult to master. What is timing? Timing is a decision. Timing answers the when question. There's 2 questions when it comes to a strategic decision. There's the what question. What is the best next move I could make? There might be a number of good moves you could make. What is the best next move I could make? It's like you're playing chess, or you're playing that game of Go with the black and white stones. In the game of Go is a better illustration, because in the game of Go you might have 4 equally good moves, but they're going in different directions, and they're pointing to different visions that you have of a territory here or a territory there. So you decide what's the best next move. And then the when question is the timing question, and that's when should I make it? When should I pull the trigger? When should I execute the decision? That decision is almost 100% intuitive. So, my thesis and behind this book is, if you cultivate intuition using mindfulness, using divination, using whatever tools you want, if you cultivate your intuitive intelligence, your timing is automatically going to get better. because your timing is an intuitive decision. And so what is that? What is great timing? It means being in sync. What is being in sync? Being in sync means you're in attunement with these synchronicities that are happening all the time, these so-called coincidences. And then you are able to make the right moves at the right time. Now, the last chapter of the book is called The Synchronistic Lifestyle, as I mentioned, and it's amazing how miracles just seem to happen more often when you become more able to notice synchronicities. Then you'll notice them more often, you'll give them some credence, and more of them start to happen. And then you can take guidance from them and become more in tune with your intuitive intelligence. I remember when I decided to make the I Ching software, I had this light bulb go off in my head at work. I was so stressed out. It was so stressful. I was bringing the I Ching to work because it was the most brutal environment. The CEO was an engineer, and he made Steve Jobs look like an easy guy to work for. And so I started using the I Ching at work just to maintain my sanity. And then one day I had the idea about, wow, I wish I could do this on my computer. And so I consulted the I Ching about whether I should do it. So I consulted the I Ching about whether I should make an electronic version of the I Ching. And it came back with the hexagram enthusiasm, turning into breakthrough. And so that was the way the I Ching helped me make that decision. But there's so many other synchronicities that happen. Once I made that decision, and obviously it was the right thing to do because all this stuff started happening. Like the way John Gray wrote the foreword to my book. He was on my radio show about Men Are From Mars 28 years ago, whenever it came out. And he asked me at the end of it, he goes, is this what you do? Are you a radio guy? I go, no. This is a path of service. This is a volunteer thing. KBOO is a community-supported radio. Now I podcast it too, by the way. So my last 300 interviews are on the divination.com website. But in those days, I was a regular working middle-class guy. And I said, no. He said, well, what do you do? And I said, I've just started this very quirky software company. So I'm launching myself as a kind of a reluctant entrepreneur. And he goes, what kind of software? And I go, well, it's for the Macintosh. It's an I Ching program. Do you know what the I Ching is? He goes, yeah. And I said, it's called Synchronicity. He goes, you did Synchronicity? I go, yeah, you've heard of it? He goes, yeah, my wife and I bought it. We use it almost every day. We love it. I go, oh, you're a customer of mine. So we've been great friends ever since. And the same kind of thing happened. I went to lease a house because my landlord was kicking my son and I out of the house because he wanted to move in there. And I was running the business out of the house. In the early days, it was all I could do to just pay the rent. And I wasn't able to pay myself half the time for those 13 years. And so I needed to move. And so I went to lease this house. And she said, you need to know, there's 100 people before you. And I go, oh, my God. And it was like the perfect house. It was a 5-bedroom house. It had all kinds of space for employees. And I just had these visions. And she goes, so what do you do? And I go, well, I have this quirky little software company, and I was kind of hoping I could run it out of here. She goes, and I said, it's for the Macintosh. She goes, oh, I have a Macintosh. I go, oh. She goes, what is the program? I said, it's called Synchronicity. It's an I Ching program. She goes, Synchronicity? You did Synchronicity? I go, yeah, you've heard of it? She goes, it's the only software I've ever bought, and I love it. And she leased it to me on the spot and sold it to me a year later. Really was kind about it. So that was another thing that happened. And then somebody approached me, do you want to buy the domain name iching.com? And while you're at it, you could buy tarot.com. I go, why me? He said, because I'm doing dictionary.com, and I want to make a business out of that. I don't have time to do everything, and I really like the way that you operate. I really love your Synchronicity software. Now let's think back. The Synchronicity software was the least remunerative thing I ever did, but it was the soul of the company because it was in such alignment with what fascinated me. And so I said, okay, well, I said, can you make me a good deal? And he goes, well, I have a couple of offers right now. And I said, well, if I matched your best offer, would you sell it to me? And he said, yeah. And I said, okay, so how much is it? And he said, somebody offered me $42,000. Now, at the time, I was making we're barely making that much in profits at all. And I go, oh, wow. Well, you like the way I operate and you're drawn to helping me. Maybe you would be inclined to give me a better price. And he said, not really. And I said, okay, well, look, I think I want to ask my advisors. Both of my advisors said no, it's too expensive. And I had this rule that I was holding myself to that I didn't have to, it wasn't legal. I said, I'm never making a decision that I can't get one of these two no men to say yes to. And so every decision I ever made, I got at least one of the two of them to agree to. This time they both disagreed. And this was the time that I overrode them both. It's like with the exception that proves the rule. It's because I asked the guy, I said, well, would you be okay with giving me 12 months to pay it off? And he goes, oh, all right, I guess so. And so he sold me that. And so that domain name, tarot.com, probably worth $1 million now. I mean, it went with the company when I sold it. So that's just another story about how stuff comes your way when you're doing what you're supposed to do, your purpose-driven life, as Reverend Maggie talks about it. So just to sum things up, perfect timing is synchronicity. Synchronicity is the definition of perfect timing. Will we ever personally have perfect timing? No. But we could have great timing the more that we get in sync with changes that are happening in our lives. And the best way to do that is to cultivate intuition. So I'm just going to leave you today by reminding you that strategic decisions are always risky, and sharing with you my motto, which is, take the risks that grow you. So on that note, I thank you very much and really enjoyed being here today. Now, I was asked if I would lead a meditation today, and I thought of a kind of interesting way to do that. On my website, one of the things that I created was this manifestation meditation template. And you can go there and you can download it. It's a Word file. And then you can modify it for yourself. And it's a treatment. It's what Ernest Holmes invented this thing called scientific prayer. Ernest Holmes was the founder of religious science. By the way, I'm a New Thought minister myself, so I'm especially happy to be here. And Ernest Holmes had 5 steps. And then I added 2 to that. And so I thought, I would read to you this manifestation meditation today. It only takes about 5 minutes. And I'm going to ask you right now to think of something that you want to be, do, or have. Think of some heart's desire or something that you want. And I'm going to refer to that as my good. So when I say my good or our good, I want you to think of the good that you're thinking of right now and apply it to yourself. Now, if you were to download this Word file, you could just change all the verbiage. You don't like the word God, you can change it to higher power, whatever. That's why I did it that way. So it's in Word. But it's the 7 steps, and I thought it would be great just to go through them right now. So I'm going to ask you to uncross your legs and just listen along after me, maybe with your eyes closed. And there's 7 steps. Step 1 is the recognition of creative power. Call it God, call it Source. It is the creative power of the universe. The nature of God is intelligent, healing love, the energy and magnetism that brings things together and makes things whole. Divine power is manifesting everywhere as love, wisdom, and creativity. God is reflected in the infinite vastness of space, the sun around which Earth revolves, the beauty of nature, the joy of love, and all kinds of miracles. This unlimited resource operates according to a law of cause and effect that begins with attraction. First there is the image, then the word, then the manifestation. There's no limit to the power of divine love when a seed has been planted and is nurtured in my heart. Step 2, I identify with this creative power. Creative power is an infinite resource that's always available to me. It works in me and through me. Its power becomes my power to direct by thought and attitude. Divine providence supports me. God is my backer. She is always there for me, always supporting my good. Creative energy flows through me and all around me. My breathing reminds me of my interconnectedness with all of nature. I can feel this connection anytime I close my eyes and consciously breathe. Creative power supports me and provides for me in safety and security because I cooperate with it. Divine love and wisdom surround me and go before me, making easy and successful my way in the world. I am in alignment with creative power around me and flowing through me. I am capable of facilitating any results I visualize and feel. I don't need to know what exact form they will take, but perfect solutions appear quickly and easily. I deserve and am entitled to success in manifesting what is good for me and what is good for the world. I am worthy to serve in this way and be supported abundantly while doing so. Step 3, realization of the word, the declaration. I am now enjoying the realization of my good. And I'm feeling it. It feels beautiful and inspiring and inevitable. Step 4, acceptance and thanksgiving. Thank you, God, for this good which I am now feeling and experiencing. I feel strong on my path. I am confident, full of faith, and my heart is filled with gratitude. Step 5, release. I know that the law of cause and effect is operating on this treatment right now, even if my 5 senses have no concrete proof yet. I am attracting my good, and my good is attracting me to itself right now. I know the manifestation of this or something better is in process. I am letting go of tendencies to worry or interfere with the process by trying to make it happen in any particular way. God knows what's happening and is producing the right results for me in a way and according to a schedule that is perfect. I am letting go of trying to control the process. I surrender to my good, which is God's will, not mine. My faith is my psychic sense of and my insight into the manifesting process that is happening right now for the greater good. And then step 6 is emotional magnetization. I feel the presence of my good. I see myself participating with my good. I am enjoying the feeling of being, doing, or having it. I am feeling the feeling of having what I have declared to be true and in process right now. I am letting this feeling radiate throughout my entire being. I am magnetically attracting my good. Step 7, decision making and execution. I am making better decisions with intuition and logic working together, and I am following up on commitments to myself at the right time. I accept that this is the 2 steps forward, 1 step backward process of learning my dance of life, of making the right moves at the right time. Thank you, God of creative power. Amen. See if you can go back to the feeling of that throughout the day. And if that might even be a practice that you like if you want to use it. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul, for that really interesting glimpse at your journey and for the inspiring things you had to say about developing our intuitive intelligence. And so, as you've just experienced, Unity offers positive, practical, and progressive spiritual teachings and tools that honor the universal truth in all religions and respects each individual's right to choose a spiritual path. And here at Unity Spiritual Center, we have an inspiring vision, an exciting mission, and compelling values by which we strive to live. So please join with me now in saying them aloud. Our vision is centered in God. We co-create a world powerfully transformed through the growing movement of shared spiritual awakening. Our mission is we are a creative, joy-filled, spiritual community. We need the next slide. Our mission is we are a creative, joy-filled, spiritual community dedicated to healing, inspiring, and transforming the lives of all people through prayer, education, and love. And our values are, we are spirit-led, generous with resources, inclusive, joyously creative, and guided by integrity. And in this space, feeling inspired by what we've heard today, feeling inspired by our vision, mission, and values, and enriched by what we've experienced and are about to experience, let us take time now to be a channel for enrichment through our generous tithes and love offerings. Practicing the principle of tithing ourselves as a spiritual community, we will be tithing 10% of the offering collected today to Unity World Headquarters and to Habitat for Humanity. So let's take a moment now to bless our offering, holding it in our hands or placing it next to our hearts as we say our offertory prayer. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God.
Ron, would you like to get crazy for a minute? This is about letting your light shine. Sometimes it's hard to do. You're in a room full of stars and you go, what could my light possibly do in this room full of people that already have that light going on? It's a collective thing. You want to start to go all the way across the universe. We need everybody involved. So just go ahead and do it. That's kind of what I do. I will let my light shine, illuminate the sky. Let my light shine, tell the darkness goodbye. Let my light shine, show everyone the way. I will let my light shine like the sun greets the day. All right, my favorite tambourine player. Come on, here we go. When there is darkness, turn on your light. When something's wrong, you make it right. If there's despair, bring on your smile. Beam on that brightness, and in a little while you will let your light shine, illuminate the sky. Let my light shine, tell the darkness goodbye. Let my light shine and show everyone the way. Let my light shine like the sun greets the day. All right, if you've got troubles, get out the cure. There is no reason you must endure, 'cause we got heaven right here on earth. Everybody's got a light built in at birth. Let my light shine, illuminate the sky. Let my light shine, tell the darkness goodbye. Let my light shine, show everyone the way. I will let my light shine till the sun greets the day. And so my story is at an end. This is the message I'm trying to send. We all have lights, every boy and girl. So get your light lit and shine on the world. And you let your light shine, illuminate the sky. Let your light shine, tell the darkness goodbye. Let your light shine, So everyone the way I will let my light shine like the sun. Grease the day. Woo! Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Ron.
Michael Hatfield is back.
We give thanks for the many blessings that are in our church this very moment. We open ourselves to the infinite possibilities that are ours to choose. We are filled with the mighty faith that empowers and frees us to live our divine purpose and serve our community with excellence. And so it is.
And I've got a few announcements. We will have Paul set up at a table in our hospitality room, so please do join us and him following the service. You can talk to him more about these fascinating principles and get something delicious to eat as well. We, as you've heard, are continuing our book study on the 5 principles. This is, if you've wondered what the unity principles are, this is a book that was written by a unity minister in Wimberley, Texas, named Ellen Davenport, and she wrote a book called The 5 Principles. We meet on Tuesday nights from 6:30 to 8:30. We've got a great group going, and it's not too late to join us if you'd like to learn more. So please do think about that. We'll be going through the last Tuesday in July. Next Sunday, July 16th, we are going to have our second open mic afternoon of the year. And as you know, if you heard me announce this before, this can be anything at all. So don't feel like you have to be a professional or almost professional writer or dancer or whatever. This is just to get to know our community a little bit better, find out some of the gifts and talents that they have. The last one that we did, Rose told some jokes. I read a manifesto. What else did we have? We had some poems that were read. Marcy read a wonderful poem. And we had a little one, so this is for kids too. We had a little one show us that he can hop up and down on one foot. So it's a lot of fun. You never know what talent you will see. Please join us. It's going to be right after the service next Sunday. And then we have another special event for you at the end of this month on July 30th. We're going to be welcoming back Anton Miserak and his partner Laura Berryhill. And so they will be doing both the service. It'll be a sort of a musically oriented service. And then they're offering us a casual concert after the service has completed. So you'll be able to go get some food in the hospitality room and then come back here in the sanctuary. They're just going to pass a hat. You know, there's no set admission fee. It's just another opportunity to listen to some wonderful music. So do plan on coming July 30th and bringing your friends and family to that. It's a really nice opportunity that they're giving us. I want to thank everybody for their volunteer service today, including our hospitality team, which is the recipient of the Shining Star Award that we give out every month. And because I see Teresa, I'm actually able to thank everybody. It includes Rosa Bundy, our hospitality coordinator, Sylvia Grady, Candy Corbett, and Teresa Hernandez, as well as other people help out. But those are the main 4 who feed you so deliciously. So let's give them a big round of applause. And thank you for that, Rosa. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, thanks for reminding people of that. And by the way, the hospitality people don't put that money back in their pocket. They donated it to the church. So this is really a ministry of love that they are buying the food, they're preparing the foods, giving it to you, and then whatever donations are made, they are contributing back to the church. So please do support their efforts and us by that. Ron, did you have an... And the gardening day. Valerie and Ron have organized a gardening day for next Saturday, or this Saturday, I guess, July 15th. So if you have a green thumb, if you like to be in community, if you just want to help out and help make our gardens look a little more beautified, please do join us for however long you can, whether it's an hour or for the whole, I guess it's 3 hours, 10 to 1 that you're offering that. And if you can come, please do see Valerie or Ron just to let them know that you'll be here. So with that, we will bring in our children.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. It keeps on coming. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Yes.
And then we did our little unity church there in the middle. And then we had a little affirmation here. I said that God is all good and active in everything and everywhere. And I am a child of God in a family of God. Wherever I am, God is. God is everywhere.
So please join with me in blessing our children.
Love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the presence of God in you, empowering you to do great things. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, family all are we. Let me walk with my family in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, Let this be my joyous vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. The light of God surrounds us. The power of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. Wherever I am, God is. And all is well. Thank you, God. Thank you, Ron. Exhausting, but it's exhilarating, all those things.
And you followed on Facebook, you got to hang out with your high school.
It was so much
Isn't that nice? That's so nice.
to be able to actually thank my band director, who's still alive, well, and kicking as sharp as a tack. And so that was great. So all of that came out really good, and so I'm glad now I've started into the Bohemian bit. So I will